Only once in the era of the college football playoff has the Alabama Crimson Tide not been a part of it. They could almost rename it Alabama and the college football playoff. Well, that's not expected to change this year. Bryce Young and Will Anderson set to lead the Tide, arguably the two best players in college football on either side of the ball. And then there's that guy, Nick Saban, one of the best coaches in the modern era. To that end, CBS Sports has released its ranking of all 131 teams in Division I, and it is Alabama at the summit. The top five also including Big Ten favorite Ohio State, defending national champions Georgia, Pac-12 champions and favorites Utah, and ACC favorites Clemson. So, all this week we are diving into the top 25 as you look at numbers 6 through 15. In fact, once we count down into the top 10, we're going to be featuring one team per day and keep deep diving on that. So today, we're doing the grouping of 25 through 21, which starts with Pittsburgh and ends with Wake Forest. Those two teams pertinent because they were the two finalists in the ACC title game last season. Kenny Pickett leading the Panthers to a 45-21 win over the Demon Deacons, that game making headlines, of course, after Kenny Pickett's fake slide that resulted in that 58-yard touchdown run and score. All right, for more on the list and these top 25 teams, let's welcome in CBS Sports college football analyst Chip Patterson. Chip, Alabama opens as the number one team with arguably the two best players in college football on their team and a GOAT as the head coach.
Yeah, and the offensive line that was so banged up by injury is now only going to be reinforced. And oh yeah, all Alabama did was go into the transfer portal and get one of the best wide receivers from Georgia and the best running back from Georgia Tech. This is a Crimson Tide team that, yes, is continuing to recruit at a high level, such that we expect that after losing waves of NFL draft picks, they're going to continue to come back. But then when you are able to also work the modern college football roster management game and just walk around and go window shopping for some of the best players in the transfer portal. Alabama is not only our number one team, and they are a team and a program as they are running right now under Nick Saban that is going to be number one for a long, long time. When you are the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, there are unrealistic expectations, but I believe that Bryce Young and this offense, especially with the addition from the transfer portal, are going to be one of the most prolific in the entire country. You pair that with Will Anderson and what he can be along with that Crimson Tide defense. I mean, there's just not a game on Alabama's schedule where Alabama will not be a favorite, and Alabama starts the year as a near unanimous number one team in the CBS Sports 131.
Pittsburgh Panthers come in at number 25, and 2021 was one for the ages. ACC champions, the most victories for the program in 4 decades, but now quarterback Kenny Pickett is gone. Biletnikoff Award winner Jordan Addison is now at USC. What do they do for an encore, Chip?
It's going to look like a very different Pitt offense because in addition to that star quarterback, in addition to that star wide receiver, we also had offensive coordinator Mark Whipple hired away by Nebraska. I see Pitt going to more of a ground and pound, which honestly is something that I think Pitt can do to be very successful. They are great on the offensive line. They are excellent on the defensive line with 2 first-team All-ACC preseason selections. And so what I think we'll see is not the high-flying offense that Kenny Pickett had, but it still will be a team that's very difficult, nasty in the trenches, and really embodies everything that Pat Narduzzi has built into this culture. They finished last season in the CBS Sports 131 rankings up in the top 15. You lose all that offensive firepower, there's going to be a downgrade, but this shows the high floor of the Pitt Panthers at this point, year 8 of the Pat Narduzzi era, as they still are inside the top 25.
Yeah, he says 2022 is a new year with new goals to accomplish. With that in mind, what are your expectations for quarterback Kedon Slovis?
First, he has to beat out Nick Patty. Kedon Slovis comes over from USC, and if I show you a highlight reel of his best games, his best performances with the Trojans, you're going to think he can step right into this role and he can be a star. He could contend to be one of the best quarterbacks in a quarterback-heavy ACC. However, he was not able to separate himself from Nick Patty, who had been the backup to Kenny Pickett for several years recently. So the fact that he wasn't able to win the job in spring practice, sure, that might have had to do with his, newness to the program, but that is something that we're really watching as we go into fall camp because, again, the ceiling for Kedon Slovis, from the best of what we've seen at USC, from him being a blue chip recruit, he could really be explosive. He could really make Pitt a dangerous threat to win the ACC again. But if they go with what they know, what I think might be a little bit more conservative and comfortable option, the established Nick Patty, that might say a little bit more about what Pitt wants to do offensively.
All right, let's talk about the Tennessee Volunteers at number 24, and head coach Josh Heupel came into that situation, and it was not great. But he managed to flip the culture here, Chip, becoming only one of 4 UT coaches since 41 to win at least 7 regular season games in his first season. There is optimism here, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a lot of buzz. They've had some good success on the recruiting trail, but it's about the offense. It's about the fireworks. It's about the touchdowns. When we have Hendon Hooker back at quarterback, Cedric Tillman back at wide receiver, the way that offense ran, it was one of the most explosive units in the SEC. And I think that as we expect there to be another step forward there, you are thinking that Tennessee is going to be able to build on that success and continue to score touchdowns. It was interesting because I thought the hire of Josh Heupel was really with the mindset that, at least we can be entertaining, at least we can recruit offensive skill players and then try to put the rest together. I think this is a big jump for Tennessee to already slot them up at 24 because they were about 20 spots lower at the end of last season after going 7-6. So the question is, do you think Tennessee can get stops? Because I'll tell you this, Tennessee will be able to score on a lot of teams in the SEC, but the very best teams, the ones that they're trying to close the gap on, the Georgia, the Alabama, the Florida, well, you're going to have to get stops in order to do that. Clearly, our voters believe there's going to be some improvement on the defensive side of the football and that Hendon Hooker, Tillman, and this passing attack will be as explosive as they were last year. And all that sets up for Tennessee to have a great argument as potentially the second best team in the SEC East.
Tennessee at 24, Pitt at 25. They're going to see each other on September the 10th. Let's go to the Kentucky Wildcats sitting at number 23. After going 41 years without a 10-win season, the Wildcats have now reached that plateau twice in the last 4 years, and they were boosted by a number of players opting to come back instead of heading to the NFL, Chip.
Yeah, and they've got a quarterback who all of the NFL draftniks are really got their eyes on in Will Levis. And there's a potential that he could take a huge step forward. He's got all the tools, physically, he has everything that you want out of the modern NFL quarterback, but we are looking to see whether Will Levis is also going to be in that argument for one of the best in the SEC at the quarterback position. Obviously a discussion that right now is dominated and starts with Bryce Young at Alabama. But when I look at what else is around Levis, he is set up for success because of the way Kentucky is built. They will always want to have a good offensive line. They always want to be able to play a game that is going to be friendly to the quarterback. It's not game management, but it certainly is not throwing your quarterback out there to go and figure it out for himself. And so if Levis is able to take all those tools, put it together, and turn it into a really dangerous offense, then this Kentucky team that is frequently relied on being great on defense and running the ball well, then you start to add an explosive element to this, and Kentucky could really have yet another special season. It is so impressive what Mark Stoops has done in Lexington. The floor for Kentucky football has been raised in a really notable way. And what we've seen with these programs when they're building is that it takes the special quarterback to take you over the top. And they might have that in Will Levis. As
you mentioned, Levis, a guy that a lot of NFL guys are going to have their eye on, 20-1 to be the first overall pick in next year's draft, right? AC finalist Houston sitting at number 22. Another team coming into prominence here, Chip. 2021 saw them winning 12 games and playing for the American Athletic Conference title. Do they have the pieces to unseat Cincinnati off the top rung as they go out?
Absolutely. And I think it starts on the defensive line with a group, and I love this name. They call themselves Sack Avenue. Houston defensive coordinator Doug Belk has done a great job of transforming the identity of this Houston defense, where we think about a Dana Holgorsen coach team and it's all about the offense, it's all about the passing game, but he's created that great complement where they're aggressive, they're downhill, they're getting after the quarterback. The defensive line alone, 34.5 sacks. The defense as a whole, 45 sacks last year. That's good for top 10 nationally. And I think the Cougs, with as many players as they have back defensively, are going to be added again. But that doesn't mean that they just need to, lean on the defense, because offensively, Clayton Tune is very good at the quarterback position. Nathaniel Dell at wide receiver is going to be one of the best wide receivers in the American Athletic Conference. And so Clayton Tune, Nathaniel Dell, this Houston team, again, with Dana Holgorsen sort of leading in that passing game into a place where it can be one of the best in the league, I think that Houston is poised yet again to maybe be undefeated in conference play. And Houston, when you look at the non-conference schedule, also includes a couple of Power 5 opportunities against Texas Tech and also against Kansas. I think those are winnable games for the Cougs. They can unseat Cincinnati. They can threaten to be the highest ranked Group of 5 team in all of the college football playoff rankings. But I think that beating Texas Tech and Kansas might not be enough to get them in the playoff like Cincinnati. But I do think that when we're looking at G5 teams, the Cougs have got to be one of the top on your list. I really like what Dana Holgorsen has with this group going into 2022.
Yeah, and looking set to join the Big 12 next year. All right, ACC finalist Wake Forest at 21. Dave Clawson broke through in 2021, an AP top 10 ranking, an ACC Atlantic Division title, and 11 wins, including the Gator Bowl. But they lost the title game to Pitt, so there's some unfinished business here, Chip.
Yeah, without a doubt. And you've got Sam Hartman back at the quarterback position, one of the most productive and successful quarterbacks in Wake Forest football history. A.T. Perry, a household name at wide receiver, is going to keep that offense running. You know, they run at a breakneck pace. It's just so fast and up-tempo. They continue to have wide receiver after wide receiver. The development of the position has been fantastic. Donovan Green is another name to know as he comes back from injury. And I think that the Deacs are going to be able to score on almost everyone once again. The big question mark for Wake Forest is what's going to happen defensively with that group. Remember, they did give up 56 points to Army, so they need to tighten up that run defense. They went and made a defensive coordinator, bringing in Brad Lambert, somebody who's been at Wake Forest before and had a little bit of success. So when we're looking at Wake Forest, you know, they run up tempo. They've got that really long mesh point in the run pass option game. It's a very fun, entertaining watch. Whether Wake Forest is going to be able to compete in the Atlantic again, compete for an ACC title again, it's whether or not they can get improvement on defense. And, you know, clearly we think that's possible as we've got them here in the top 25.
He is CBS Sports college football analyst Chip Patterson, helping get us ready for the upcoming college season by breaking down the CBS Sports preseason top 25, which you can see over on CBSSports.com. All 131 teams are ranked, by the way. So here are the teams that we just went over. The Pitt Panthers, Tennessee at 24, Kentucky at 23. Then you have Houston with that defense. Sack Avenue is what they're called, that defense. They're at 22. And the Demon Deacons sitting at 21. And of course, if you want more on the rankings and probably going a little bit deeper down the list, check out Chip Patterson and the Cover 3 podcast. You can download and follow wherever you get your podcast on.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.